Hey friends, it's MJ from the Coaches Panel. I hope you're well. Welcome back to another player review as I give you my take from a SuperCoach and AFL fantasy perspective about what it means for every single player moving clubs this free agency and trade period. Talking about the new Sydney Swan departing Fremantle Docker, Joel Hamling. Let's talk about what it means for the club he's left, for the club he's arrived at, and ultimately wrap it up for us about what it means for SuperCoach and AFL Fantasy in 2024 and beyond. Let's talk about it for the Swans. They really struggled for key position defenders this year. Partially, that's now been even further exaggerated, the pain with the early retirement of Paddy McCartan. And they had some serious lacking of depth through there. Now, a lot of that was just multiple injuries stacking up. It even saw Callum Mills, before his injury in the offseason, have to move into the back line for really significant periods of time playing lockdown roles. What Joel Hamling does is he brings some premiership capabilities. I know it's going back a while now, but a guy that has shown at times through his career he can lock down on opposition key tools really quite well. So I think this is a really astute pickup by the Swans. It adds some depth to an area of their list that they've been severely lacking, and I think it's a really nice move. It won't cost them too much from a salary perspective, but he's shown when he's fit, and that's the big thing. When he's fit, he's a really reasonable player at AFL level. So I like this move from the Swans. Whether or not he's best 22 is going to be something we'll watch with interest through the preseason, but definitely if he can get himself fit, he's shown that he can keep up to the level at AFL standard. From a Dockers perspective, the fact that he's only played 6 games over the past 3 years really does mean they've had to find a way to exist without him anyway. And they've got some really nice structures in their back line. Pearce, skipper of the club. He's shown he's got all Australian capabilities. It's a while removed now, but he's got there. Brennan Cox is a really handy, tall defender, although he can at times butcher the ball by foot. So you got 2 big talls already sorted out. Luke Ryan is a really handy intercept rebounder and can play tall when required. So they're not really lacking in talls. You put those 3 and the lack of his availability through multiple injuries over the past 3 years, I don't think Fremantle are going to see anything of significance really lacking in their side. So for Fremantle, they've largely gone 3 seasons without him. I think moving forward into the future is not going to be a significant pain point for them. What does it mean for us in AFL Fantasy and SuperCoach in 2024 and beyond? Well, for AFL Fantasy, I think his highest seasonal average in his career, and you've got to go back to 2018 for some of these numbers, his average is in the mid-50s. He's got 1 year, I think, of more than 1 game where he averaged 70 plus in SuperCoach. But largely he's shown he's kind of that 40s, 50s guy, and that's purely because he's a lockdown defender. He's got some intercept chops, but that's not his one wood. And he's a fine user of the ball, but he doesn't excel in that. So even if he does get games regularly and early at Sydney, and with some likely price discount because he's only played such a small amount of footy over a small period of time, he will be priced at a point where people might at times in the preseason look at him and go, he's a name, I at least know what he can do. It's not great, but at least I know what he could do. But I think the reality of what we'll find every preseason is this. We get to this time of year in October and go, there's no options of cows in the back line. We get to the draft and go, there's no options of cows. We get to the early few weeks and months of our list builds when we're doing team reveals and building our early starting squads going, there are no defenders that are cheap in the back line. We start looking at options like Hamling to fill it out because they're known quantities. But every single year, the cycle comes and goes, and we always get 3, 4, 5, 6 guys at reasonable or cheaper price points to Hamling of what he will be that are comparable, if not considerably better scorers to what Joel will be. So I know there might be some early temptation to see that he's an option. Look, we'll wait to see what his price point is before we rule him out entirely. So a light watch list at best for Joel Hamling. But for me, I fully expect we'll get better options in the backline at a comparable or cheaper point that will cost us, less than Joel, and we'll get better output than that. He's a chance to get some games early, but I think from a Sydney perspective, they're going to hope some other key position options and structural manoeuvres come in. He's a chance, though, to get the McCartan role if he can get himself fit. And that's the big thing with Joel. If he can get his body fit, then he'll see a little bit of AFL time next year. But if the next 3 years are anything like the past 3 years, then this is not only an irrelevant move for fantasy and for SuperCoach, but unfortunately for Sydney as well. If you agree or disagree, you can comment below. If you're enjoying these videos, you can make sure you're following us on YouTube and turn the notifications on, because every single time a player moves this trade and free agency period, we will do an update video on them. You can join us on our Patreon supporter group for just a couple of dollars a month. You can get additional bonus content. And then right throughout the preseason of 2024, we'll be dropping podcasts and videos for you. You can get the podcast from everywhere you get all of your podcasts. I'll be back with you again soon, reviewing another player that's moved clubs this off-season.